Well, we did it. I can now say that as a YouTuber, I have made videos on the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy. I have peaked in life, and he lived happily ever after, to the end of his days. The Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King. So The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King is the third and final chapter of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings movie trilogy, and it doesn't get more epic than this. This has to be my favorite chapter of the trilogy, because oh my god, there are so many epic and memorable moments throughout this entire 4.5 hour long movie. Yeah, you're gonna hear that word a lot in this video, epic, because that's what this movie is. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. This movie won all 11 Academy Awards it was nominated for, including Best Picture. Yeah, now do you have a sense of what we're dealing with here? Congratulations, welcome to Middle-earth. So The Return of the King actually begins with something we don't expect. We get to see firsthand how Smeagol became Gollum. Yeah, so we actually get to see Andy Serkis do some non-motion capture acting. Smeagol found the ring after Isildur initially lost it. The ring was lost out of all knowledge for 2,500 years before this. And so we get to see the genesis of what would eventually become Gollum. And actually, something really cool I noticed about Gollum in my most recent watch through is the fact that when he's switching between his personalities, his pupils will actually change size. When he's trying to be nice Smeagol, his pupils are a little bigger, but when he's dark and sinister Gollum, his pupils will actually get smaller. I didn't even realize that until the last time I watched this. That's really cool. So at the end of the Two Towers, we see that Gollum is misleading Frodo and Sam. He's leading them the wrong way because he wants those hobbits dead and he wants that ring for himself. Like I said, Frodo has this connection with Gollum because they both know what it's like to be with this ring. But Samwise doesn't have that. And this is where it comes to the point where Gollum has finally pulled off enough tricks and he actually turns Frodo against Sam and Frodo tells him to leave. That does really suck. You really hate Gollum in this scene. Cause you know that Sam is absolutely right. Gollum is tricking Frodo, but Sam just doesn't have the proof. So Frodo has no reason to believe Sam, and you're like, damn. Yeah, what a way to kick off this arc. And so after the victory at Helm's Deep, Gandalf, Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Theoden, they all go to Isengard to confront Saruman. This scene is worth mentioning right here because Saruman actually dies right here. Some bitter words are thrown, and then Grima Wormtongue just stabs Saruman. You see him fall down Orthanc, and he just gets impaled on that spike wheel thing. You're like, oh, that is brutal. What a way to go. And in his death, Saruman drops the Palantir, the Seeing Stone, and Pippin gets a hold of this thing, and through that we learn where Sauron is gonna make his next move. That'll be in Minas Tirith. Yeah, we finally get to see Minas Tirith in this movie. We've heard it mentioned a couple of times. We did see it a little bit in Fellowship of the Ring, but here we get to see it in, I'd say it's full glory, but it's not really in its full glory. Minas Tirith is the capital of Gondor, the realm of men. And yeah, this is where Aragorn is supposed to be sitting on the throne as king. But since he's not, Gondor is being run instead by its steward, Denethor, played by John Noble. Now, we saw this character a little bit in Two Towers. He's the father of Boromir and Faramir. And yeah, you know what? Douche is the word to describe him because, oh my god. What makes him so terrible is that he loves his firstborn son, who's Boromir, but he seems to really hate his secondborn son, Faramir. Denethor sees Faramir as pretty much completely worthless, and it sucks to watch. You feel bad for Faramir because he's doing nothing wrong. In fact, he's a good man. But Denethor, for some odd reason, just refuses to see that. You just wonder why. There's a scene where the town of Osgiliath, which is a little ways from Minas Tirith, it's been overrun by orcs, like, it's gone. But Denethor's like, alright, we need that city back. There's no hope, but we need it back. Faramir, I'm putting this on you. Which, yeah, is pretty much him sending his son to his death. Douche, I'm telling ya. And this scene, man, this is one of the many epic, memorable moments I'm talking about. We see Faramir charging on Osgiliath with his army, it's all slow motion, and Denethor has Pippin singing a song for him, and it's this really emotional ballad. Home is behind, the world ahead. It goes on from there and you're like, wow, this scene did not have to go that hard, but you're a fool if you think that this is as epic as it gets. A lot of the epic quality of this movie does come from the score, which I will touch on now, because Howard Shore really outdid himself. And that's just the truth. The choir in this score during the really epic moments towards the end, it's like the biggest, most dramatic score you've ever heard in your life. It really does feel like the end of the biggest cinematic saga you'll ever see. So let's end it on a high note. And as far as new themes go, there's the Gondor theme, the bum 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 bum, which is like the most regal royal theme you've ever heard in your life. But also there's a new theme that revolves around the song Into the West, which Annie Lennox sang for the credits, and it's just beautiful. Like I said, Howard Shore's score for the Lord of the Rings trilogy is just one of the best film scores ever written. There's no other way to say it. So all of my props to him, because it is well deserved. So Sauron's army is still marching towards Minas Tirith, but Denethor, being the douchebag that he is, he refuses to do anything about it. He refuses to light the beacons to call Rohan for aid, when they're totally willing to help out. And so Gandalf has Pippin do it. And now we come to another one of my favorite scenes in this movie. It's really hard to pick just one favorite moment in this movie, so I just have a bunch. And this is definitely one of them. Pippin lights the first beacon, and from there we see the beacons across Middle-earth being lit. These big, wide shots, the music's kicking on. Oh my god. And it ends with Aragorn seeing the beacon in Rohan being lit, and he's like, oh shit. He bursts through the door, he's like, the beacons are lit! Gondor calls for aid! To which King Theoden responds, and Rohan will answer. Every time I get to that scene, I'm always like, yes! Let's go! The scene just does a really good job at hyping you up. And ending with one of my favorite characters in Lord of the Rings going, yep, it's time to fight. That's just awesome. This is where we have some really great Theoden moments. Like the scene where Merry offers his service to him. Not only does Theoden gratefully accept it,
you shall be Meriadoc, Esquire of Rohan.
I mean, he didn't have to be that benevolent, but he was. Also, the scene later on where he's talking to Éowyn, and he tells her that if I should fall during this war, I want you to succeed me. That's just great. It's a great Theoden moment, and it's great for Éowyn. Now she'll actually get to feel like she's doing something. Going off of Éowyn, though, I should mention that she does have a little crush on Aragorn. Actually, it's not so little. And we all know that Aragorn is in love with Arwen. So again, we do end up feeling bad for Éowyn. It's okay, though. She ends up with Faramir in the end. But speaking of Arwen, you remember in Two Towers, her father Elrond advised her against her relationship with Aragorn, and instead he convinced her to just leave Middle-earth. So we see that she is leaving, but then she gets a vision, like a foresight vision, of a kid that she will have with Aragorn. She sees this kid and she's like, oh, father, you lied to me. I ain't leaving anymore, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. To which Elrond is like, I'll do you one better. I'll take the shards of Narsil, the original sword that cut the ring from Sauron's hand, and reforge it into a new kingly sword made for Aragorn, Anduril. Aw man, this is the sword of the King of Gondor, which now we see that Aragorn is really coming into that role. I mean, there's a reason this chapter is called The Return of the King, and Aragorn's gonna need that sword too. Because as he and the crew, Legolas, Gimli, Theoden, all the Rohirrim, as they're marching to Minas Tirith, they realize that they still don't really have enough men to overcome the threat. So let's go recruit a bunch of ghosts. Yeah, you heard that right. There's a dead army dwelling in this mountain, and they're ghosts because they broke their oath a long time ago, and so they were cursed by Isildur until they fulfilled their oath to fight for the King of Gondor. Well, hey, what better time than now? So Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, they go into this mountain, and we see this dead army, and every time I see this leader of the dead army, I'm like, Jeffrey Rush, is that you? It's not Jeffrey Rush, but every time I watch this, I'm like, he sounds just like Barbossa. Because he does. And Aragorn is trying to convince this army to fight for him. He's like, what say you? And here comes another awesome moment because it looks like they refuse at first. And then you see the dead leader come out from within the mountain and he goes, we fight. And again, you're like, yeah, so cool. And so we eventually get to the Battle of the Pelennor Fields. This is it. This is the big climactic war of the Lord of the Rings. All of Sauron's forces march upon the White City. The Nazgul come in on their dragons, including the leader of the Nazgul, the Witch King of Angmar. This motherfucker holds the record for most evil sounding voice I have ever heard in anything.
Do not come between the Nazgul and his prey.
Whenever I hear him, I'm like, that is the voice of evil. Straight up, that's just what darkness sounds like. awesome. And dude, when the Rohirrim arrive at the scene, we get the first of 2 power speeches in Return of the King. The speeches are really some of the best scenes in the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. Theoden is all like, shields shall be splintered, a sword day, a red day, the sun rises! I love it so much, it gets you jacked, man! After hearing that, you're just ready to follow the Rohirrim into war. You're yelling, death! And they just charge into war, and it's just the best thing ever. The unfortunate thing is that Theoden does meet his end here. Yeah, he is killed by the Witch King of Angmar, which sucks, but that also gives a chance for Éowyn to avenge him. And that's exactly what she does. Starting by decapitating the dragon, you're like, oh my god. You hear the Witch King go,
Fool, no man can kill me.
and then Éowyn takes off her helmet, I am no man, and she just stabs him right in the face. Oh yeah, go Éowyn. And some other badass moments on the Pelennor fields. We have these giant olifants tromping through. Legolas is like, I'm gonna steal the show for a second. He's climbing up the arrows, he's killing guys with that elven precision, and he sticks 3 arrows in the olifant's head. He slides down the trunk and he's like, To which Gimli says, that still only counts as 1. That's fantastic. And of course, victory goes to the big ghost army. Which, yeah, you may see as cheating, because they're ghosts, they can't die, so they automatically win. But it's not like the big conflict is over or anything. Aragorn holds their oaths fulfilled, and so they finally get to die in peace. So long, sleep well. Now, I should probably jump back to Frodo because I haven't touched on him in a while, and he's not doing so well. Not only is the ring heavier now than it's ever been, but Gollum has led him right into the lair of a giant spider, Shelob. And dude, this thing is nasty. There's that shot where you're looking up and you see Shelob is hovering over Frodo. He doesn't hear a thing because Shelob's making no noise, and you can just feel the tension rising. And sure enough, Shelob gets him. She wraps him up in her webbing, she's gonna eat him for dinner. But not if Samwise Gamgee has anything to say about it. Oh yeah, he comes to the rescue. He defeats Shelob. This is badass. Samwise rescues his friend. That's really how he earns the title Samwise the Brave, because that's what he is. So now we're at the point where Frodo and Sam, they are in Mordor. Mount Doom is just a few leagues away, but 10,000 orcs just happen to be in the way. So, following the victory at the Pelennor Fields, Aragorn comes up with the idea of distracting the Eye of Sauron and all those orcs by marching up on the Black Gate and keeping them occupied while Frodo and Sam make their way to Mount Doom. And so that's what they do. The remaining soldiers of Minas Tirith, they march up on the Black Gate, and they're completely outnumbered. They know in their hearts that they are not going to live through the situation, but that's not what matters here. What matters is giving Frodo a chance to destroy the ring. We're just here to distract you guys. That is amazing. But before this battle can begin, we hear from the mouth of Sauron that Frodo is dead, which of course is a lie, but he has Frodo's mithril vest. He throws it to Aragorn as proof. And so now the whole reason for them being there is completely negated. It's gone. Frodo is dead? Oh, okay, there's no hope. We're all fucked. And another one of the most badass moments in the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. Aragorn looks back at Gandalf and the crew, and he's like, for Frodo. And he just runs headfirst into battle, followed by the army of Minas Tirith, because now that hope has completely gone, it's over. They have nothing left to fight for. But you know what? If we're gonna die, we're gonna die fighting. Dude, oh my god, I'm shivering right now as I'm talking about it, it's so good. I can't think of any other scene in any other epic cinematic saga that compares to this one. It's unprecedented. Aragorn, you have like the biggest soul ever. He could have chosen not to fight. He could have just chosen to surrender. He had no reason not to. But the fact that he's like, nope, I'm not going down without a fight, it really shows how far he has come throughout this journey. He's gone from exiled ranger to king of Gondor. And dude, this speech that he gives is just the best. I bid you stand, men of the West! Really, this is how epic the Lord of the Rings gets. Cause from there on till the credits start rolling, you are just glued to the screen, you're emotionally invested, you are gripped. And by the end of the movie, you're in tears. You can't help it. The emotional wrap-up to this 12-hour-long cinematic journey, it is unlike anything that's been done in cinema before, I think. I mean, there's a reason that this movie won all 11 Oscars it was nominated for, because it deserved them. So in conclusion, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, I can't say anything more now that I haven't already said. It's absolutely one of the greatest movies ever made, and I say it like that because it really is one big 12-hour long movie. It's split up into 3 chapters, sure, but it is one big overarching story. It's beginning, middle, end. And no matter what happens in the future regarding Middle-earth, we will always have this trilogy, and that will never die. That being said, to use my favorite movie quote of all time, I think I'm quite ready for another adventure. So, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. Have you seen it? Have you seen this trilogy? Where does it rank in your hierarchy? And just what are your thoughts on the Lord of the Rings movie trilogy? Sing your praises. I want to see them. So whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace.